Hello and welcome back to another video. Now we've just come back from our first practice session and it all went all right. My son got about 30 minutes of track time, after which he was pretty exhausted. The go-kart performed okay, but one thing I noticed was that he was a little bit uncomfortable. He was getting tired, he could barely reach the pedals. So ergonomically, I think the go-kart is not very fit for him at the moment. I did try and put some padding in the seat to try and bring him forwards a bit, but what needs to happen is the pedals need to go backwards. Now, this isn't really a professional job. Someone just put some foam padding to bring the feet up, but the pedals can't really move. There are some systems you can buy online for about £150. It's a kit that allows you to move the pedals backwards and forwards. It kind of mounts onto this part of the chassis, but I'm not at this point in time. I don't think I want to spend that much money on it, considering the go-kart was only £600. Paying 150 for pedal adjustment feels a little bit much at the moment for this go-kart. So in this video I will try and make something so that I can bring the pedals closer to him. So the first thing I need to do is remove this base plate, and I can see all sorts of sizes of nuts and bolts. Nothing is really standardized. So while I do this, I'm also gonna try and change all the bolts so they are all identical, so I only need a few tools in my toolbox. I'm just struggling a bit here because I just can't seem to find a way to get that plate out. It can't come out from the front because the steering column is in the way. It can't come down through the bottom of the go-kart because all those tabs are in the way. So yeah, I'm just a bit confused right now. It does seem a little bit bent, so whoever's put it in there kind of bent it into place, but I'm not sure that's the right way to do it. No matter what I do, I couldn't get it out the bottom. I couldn't bend it into a shape that would allow me to take it out. So I think what needs to happen is that I need to remove this and this, remove the steering link, and then try and kind of pull it out the side. Hopefully I can do that without having to remove the seat. So all I'll need to do is take off the brake pedal, maybe the brake cable there, or maybe I'll do it on the side with the throttle because less things to take apart, and then just kind of slide it that way or that way. So I got it this far with taking off one of the pads. I had to use a Stanley knife and just slowly cut it back. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with the residue there, but I'll find a way to remove it. So my hope was that it will just sort of come out there. Safer to wear some gloves because I might pinch my fingers here. It's not coming out without a fight, but this is the closest I've been all day. And it's free. Well, luckily I don't have to do this at the track, because I'll probably just angle grind it down and just go with half a plate, because this took flipping ages. I've probably been here for 2 hours. Next job is take this off, clean this down, and then make something so that I can move the pedals in here. Now, the go-kart has the pedals usually mounted here and here, so you've got accelerator and brake. There's also two other tabs, one here and one here. Now you can see they're not quite aligned. One is kind of this is the usual one that is used, and it's further in than this one here. And also there's slightly different inner diameters. This is slightly bigger. I can still put the bolt through there, and I can tighten it so it won't have too much play, but I'm not quite sure, are these for the pedals to be moved, or are they there for another reason? I'm not sure. I have seen other people use these, so I'll probably try and do that. But what's going to happen is that the throttle stop is up here. If I move the throttle over here, then I won't have that stop adjustment. And I've been using this to limit the amount of throttle movement that my son can use. For the brake, there's nothing really here that is needed, but on the pedal itself there's this little bolt that basically helps with the resting position of the brake. So basically it doesn't let it drop too far down, so your pedal is always right before the bite point. So I guess I will try and move them there, and not put the pedals on this bottom plate, and see how that goes. So I've cleaned the tray. It didn't come out quite as clean as I wanted. You can still see some residue. I've tried scraping it with a razor blade. I've put all sorts of cleaning products. I've tried petrol as well. Nothing seems to clean it fully. I've even tried a blowtorch to try and burn some of it away, but it didn't do the job. I think it's clean enough now. I'm not gonna try any more than this. I did straighten it a bit as well, because it was a bit twisted and bent. So I'm gonna put it back in, and then I'm gonna try and fit the pedals in the new positions, and see how I can have the stop for the throttle and the rest for the brake pedal. So I'm thinking I'm gonna mount this tray a different way. So the first two tabs, I want the tray to be over the tabs, so the tray rests on these two tabs, and then the rest they can be underneath the tabs. Because what I don't want to happen is, if you lose any of the bolts, if you lose a bolt there and there, it will just drag on the floor. If you lose bolts in the front, what you don't want is to go down and act as like a scoop. So as long as the front is held in place and has no option to drop on the floor, then I think I'm good. That way I don't have to twist and bend it into shape. I did try and put it back the same way I took it out, but it needs a lot of twisting to get it in. So I'm gonna do it differently to the way I found it. So this is what I meant about the tray being above the tabs. So you see it sits on the tabs, so there's no way for it to fall down and dig into the ground and potentially flip me over. Whereas here, the tray is held in by the tab, so the tray is below the tab, so even if it falls, it just drags on the floor. Hopefully that explanation made sense. And now it's easy to remove. If I remove all the bolts, it just kind of comes down and out. I've played around with the pedal adjustment, trying to move the pedals to this point here rather than this point here, but I just couldn't make it work. There was no way to get a rest point for the brake, and there was no way to get a stopper for the throttle. So I decided to make my own pedal box. So I'll be using this square tubing that I had for a different project, and I'm gonna use the mounting points, one there, one there. They already exist there for the bottom tray, and I'm gonna have the pedal screw kind of like that. So that's the plan, and I'll have to put a razor as well, because my son's feet are quite small, so if he rests his feet there, he won't reach the pedal. Plus, when he turns, this will hit his leg. So yeah, I'll make my own pedal box out of this tubing with a flat sheet of steel, or maybe even wood, plywood, depending what I have lying around, and we'll go from there. I don't want to drill or weld anything to the chassis. I want to keep it as it is. He's going to grow into it. We're going to move the pedals back in place. So I'm just going to do something cheap and easy with stuff I have laying around while we're just practicing at the moment. So I've got two large holes here, so the hex bolts can go all the way through, and then two smaller bolts here, so this actually clamps down, so the bolts don't stick out here. They kind of sit inside this square tube, and then this is kind of shaped so that it sits nicely around the frame, and then this is the hole where the shaft for the pedal goes in. And I could drill a few more so that I can move the pedals as I need them, but I think this will do. And all I need to do now, this is going to be on the brake side, so I need to weld a bracket. I think I need to weld a bracket. I'll have to check after I do a fit check. Make sure that there's something here so that the pedal can rest on it. And then on the throttle on the other side, I'll have to put a bracket so that I can limit the amount of movement of the pedal. So good news and bad news. The good news is the stop, this one that doesn't allow the pedal to fall forwards, fall backwards I should say, that works fine. The problem is that I can't use these bolts, or I can't use these bolt holes, because I can't fit this bracket in place. So I'm gonna have to drill another set of holes somewhere around here, so I can move the bolt. So I can move the bolt here, and then I won't have this problem where the pedal hits the frame. So back to drilling. So the pedals are now in place. They are a little bit too close together, I feel, compared to where they were before. You see, they were kind of out here, and they could have been there. So there's that, I don't know, maybe 2 centimeters further in. So I'll have to sit my son inside and see how he feels. They're not tight, they still kind of wobble about a bit. So I'm hoping that when everything is in, I can put a few washers in here, move it out just a tiny bit. So hopefully this will work. If not, I'm not quite sure exactly what I'm gonna do. So I've welded a stopper for the throttle, and you can see this is kind of all the way in. There's a bit of movement. I don't know if this is too much or too little. I guess we'll see when we put it on. I can still adjust this screw here, so there's still a way to limit it if this movement is too much. But yeah, we'll see when we go for the ride. Both pedals now secured in. There's still a little bit of play, but that's normal. The stop works well. The rest works well. I didn't connect the cables yet. What I need to do now is make a raised plate that goes from one end to the other, so his heel can be at a high enough point so that he can press the pedals with no issues. So this is it. The footrest is installed, the pedals are in, it's raised, maybe about 3 centimeters from the floor. Now I just need to take it all apart and paint it so that it won't rust. The pedal box is now finished, and it took me a lot longer than I thought it would. With cutting and painting and trying different options, I think I spent about 6-7 hours on it. But at least it works now. I'm not too proud of my welding, but it does the job. So yeah, next it's just gonna have to bring my son over to give it a go.